if you do have an idea that you're looking to build at the moment, then I'd expect you're either going to be working in an organisation, you can put a petition through to your boss, you can write a letter to say, I've got this really brilliant idea, can I get some support for this, and hope that they'll support you in that endeavour. But if you're looking to do it yourself, or maybe start up a business, then look to Microsoft and their startup credits, or AWS or Google with their startup credits at the moment. All of them are offering, I think, $2,000 to $10,000 of free credits, so you can go in, you can use those language models, you can use the more advanced tools, you can change the temperature, the creativity. So yeah, I'd exploit some of those tools that the bigger manufacturers have been creating for us, so we can get some more inclusion in AI.
So I think the LLMs and ChatGPT and the rest are a symptom of the problem, obviously, right? So it's just exacerbating an existing problem, which is systemic and political, that people will have different levels of access. So a big problem is education, and another big problem is generational. So older generations, my parents, they probably they will never have the access that the younger generations have. So I think if you're looking for an answer, I think it comes back to going back to our institutions, the things that Maria was saying around what the EU will do. We might hate GDPR, we might hate all these cookies things, but they've enabled some digital rights that, to an extent, that help us out. So I'd say, what can we do? I don't know what we can do, but we can try and temper the impact by reducing, maybe giving more people access, or I think the stuff that you were saying around supporting open source solutions, and yeah, doing what we always do.
Thank you. I want to continue on that, actually in the last comments that we submitted on the part of Hitachi to the what's the latest one called? AI, the new AI national policy for responsible AI. We specifically wrote that we need to have, in that case, the US government, because it was for the US government, create and curate like government owned large language models and training data to ensure diversity and equity, and having representation of all groups, and not just your young white tech guy or whatever else is mainly represented in the training data.
I think I can bring two of the questions together in that, how do we solve it now? Unfortunately, don't have the answer. But one of the key takeaways, I think, for everyone in the room, and how we will get to the answer, is continue to educate yourselves. Everyone in the room, the more minds, the more thinkers we have on the problem, eventually we'll get to a solution. The more we can drive efficiencies within large language models, the more accessible they'll continue to become.
I can't say I have an explicit answer to this one. There are so many cropping up now. I think, as Liam alluded to earlier, like people can go off and build them like it's nothing. There's an underlying issue with some of them in that the data sets that are accessible to the general public, that some of the larger models have been trained on various versions of, is that there's things like pirated data in there. So some of you might have read that OpenAI have got lawsuits against them at the moment for the content on that they've used as their training data. There are citations of, I think Washington Post uncovered a bunch, I think it was like 160 different sources of pirated data within something that made up like 12% of either the Bard or the ChatGPT training set. The C4, which I think is the Bard, the Corpus Pros or something. So, my mind's gone blank after that question, I'm really sorry. Open source. Sorry, yes. So best open source. I think all of them at the moment, if you can get your hands on them, have a play with them, make your own conclusions. they're open source, they're accessible, they've all got the strengths, they've all got the weaknesses. As we've said, it depends on the things that matter to you. Ethics are variable person to person, morals are different person to person. Some of them censor the answers, they remove harmful language and things like that. Some don't, so if you're sensitive to one way or the other, that should be a part of the decision in which model you choose.
Can I augment that question?
Okay.
Just add to it. So what's the capability difference between an open source LLM and one of the kind of big LLMs, if that's what they're called?
Yes, and typically the training data is what we're looking at, so where's the data come from? So if we're looking at ChatGPT, it's straight from the internet, it's going to be your Reddit and your Facebook posts and everything else I expect. Data's not entirely transparent, so you can't see. But it's the same issue as well when you're looking at inclusion of how do we make sure that we're accounting for different cultures or different ways of thinking or different religions or any other protected class. And if you're only basing your data set on the text that's being created by white middle class men in England or in America, are you taking those viewpoints in from other people around the world, from other cultures as well? And that's the nature of closed source. You don't know where it's come from, you don't know who's written it, you don't know what words they've used, what they're thinking. With open source, you have the ability to then have the flexibility to look at the language that's being used, who did submit it, who was the author, where did it come from, how did they train it. Benefits of open source have always been the same, and they benefit everybody at the same time. When it's closed source, it's locked off, you don't know where the data's coming from, the terms can change, it can suddenly be taken away from you, your business can fold as a result. Open source is the way forward, right? But how do we get there? It requires people to start learning, start training other people, educating them, and doing it themselves. Unfortunately, you have to do some hard work.
I really wanted to add that, as always, everything depends on your use case and what you want something for. For example, the current trend is to see whether you can get different results with prompt engineering, playing with the prompt to see whether you get different results with different LLMs. And I guess the other aspect is how easy it is to tune and integrate in your existing infrastructure. And again, we're talking if you're a big company rather than if you just use it for personal reasons.